waiting for Jessica to join us. If you were just on our backstage, you'll see she popped in and then popped out again whilst we're waiting for her Wi-Fi to honour us. Now, the funny thing is that today is about the only day that I would say that I'm not qualified for, to actually talk to you on my own. I guess I'm not qualified for any of the panelists apart from the one I chose, which is the business side of things. But arrogantly, I think I can probably sub in. What I'm having to do right now is exactly that, sub in, whilst Jess turns up. So let me tell you about an occasion in my relationship, and I'll tell you what happened and how me and my wife resolved it. So we had a long-running debate between my wife and I whether Olivia, my daughter, should go to a state school or to a private school. And it was one of those arguments that any married couple or any long-term couple can probably relate to in one degree or another, that it was one of those ones where, where you argue a little bit in the car and then you stop, and then you argue a bit before you go to bed and you stop. And this went on for like 3-4 days. And it's probably the first time in my relationship that I've had this with my wife. So it was kind of a unique feeling for us, and I think for her as well. And it ended when we both turned around and said, okay, enough is enough. Right? This is crazy. So let's just roll back and understand why we're having this argument. And what we realized was that we both loved our daughter. We both loved our daughter infinitely. So we both cared about the subject. So we're both passionate about the subject because we both loved our daughter. And that was what causing the friction, right? So we both loved our daughter. And that was the most important part of solving our argument, because we realized that we both agreed with the core concept. And I would put it to you that in most arguments and debates between two people that love each other, what you'll find is that you both agree at the base of the source of the conflict is actually a point of agreement. The second thing I would put to you is that you both care. You're both passionate about the subject you're arguing about. Because if you're not passionate about it, why would you be arguing in the first place? So we've now got two things that we can build on. We've got a shared perspective, and we've got the fact that we both care, we're both passionate. Now I would again, I'm layering here, I'm stacking assumption upon assumption. The third assumption is that you care more about those two things than you do about the argument. So do you care, in my case, do I care about my love of my daughter more than winning this argument? The answer is yes. Do I care more about the fact that I married somebody that's passionate and presents her views with how do you say this? No, but she could be listening. That she shares her views with gusto. That's it. I was about to say aggressive, but no, with gusto. Yes, I like that. So I like the fact that we both share our opinions and that we both put forward our point of view, and we both love our daughter. Those two are more important than the argument. And I really want that to land with you, because if you look at the source of most debates and arguments and friction, you will find a point of commonality. Once we identified those, it was about 5 minutes to resolve the argument. And it simply came down to my wife saying, well, you want her to go to a private school, and I want her to go to a state school. I'm like, yeah. She says, so how about she goes to a state school for the first term, and if you then disagree, we will then go and find a private school. So we did something that we've told you, not this week, last week in choices, always find an option C. And there's always an option C. And that's what caused this problem. It was, I had to drop my stance and agree with Liz, my wife's, or Liz had to drop her stance and agree with me, right? And neither of us wanted to do that. Whereas when we found an option C, it was very easy for me to go, I can live with that. Yeah, that's fine. It's one term. What's one term? She's going to be in school for a decade plus. What's a couple of months? I can agree to a couple of months. So if you're finding yourself in that situation, that's my advice as a kind of a relationship advice whilst I've been waiting for Jess to come up online, and I think she's back with us in a second. So number one, find the source that you both agree with, because that's your power. That's where you're going to turn this into a conflict an unhealthy conflict into a healthy conflict. Instead of how do I win, it's how do we both achieve this. Number one. Number two, remember the reason you're having an argument is because the person that you're talking to and yourself both care deeply about the subject itself, which is a good thing, not a bad thing, because if people stop caring, then it's game over. And number three, if you truly can't see a choice, find another choice. There is always another choice. There's always another option. So that would be my advice. And Jess, I think you are back with us now. What's your thoughts on that?
I am. Thank you so much for your patience, and thanks for starting. I had a little bit of technical difficulties. Can you hear me right now? Is this better connection?
Perfect and beautiful.
Fantastic. Yay.
Great.
So I completely agree with you, Peter. And one common thing that in everything that you say and in your relationship with Liz that I find is so inspiring and valuable for others to model is, and you do that not only in your relationship, romantic relationship, but also in your business relationships, in any relationships that you have, Peter, is understanding that most people are looking for good intent, that at the end of the day, there's good intent. And in everything you described, at the end of the day, the intent was good. The intent was looking for that common intent of taking care of your daughter, making sure she has, the best education, the best for her, for the best life, because you love her. One of the things that you have is you both love her very, very much. And so I think that's one of the most we forget in relationship is, especially right now with tense. I was just in a car for 4 days with somebody, and I totally, like, even myself, like, I lived through it, and it's understanding, well, these are not normal times. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of change. And what I mean by it's not normal, it may be a new normal. There is that, and it's understanding, it's reminding ourselves that the intent is good and no one is wrong. It might not be what you want. It might not be what you're choosing to have in your life as a person. And that's why you have boundaries. That's why you communicate. That's why you have, understandings, etc. But it's not about making the other person wrong. That was one of the big realizations I had too. So yeah.
Jess, I want to make this slightly worse for everybody, not better right now. It's not going to get better soon, guys. It's going to get worse. Right? If you're waiting for a lockdown or a quarantine to end and go, wow, we can all go back. We're looking at 20, and I know we're in relationships, and I see this as relevant to this subject. We are looking at 20 to 30% unemployment rates coming out of this. We are looking at a 5-year impact. We are looking at a decade-worthy event. When people say 2020, this isn't what I was expected, you should add an apostrophe S on the end of that. It's 2020s. This is the 20s. This is the underlying story of the decade. This isn't going away. So the thing that I want to bring to people so often, that I think I get, I'm willing to say this, the thing I get more right than most people is that people's actions don't faze me. It's the intent behind the action that I spend my time looking at. And people get away with stuff around me because of it. Literally, some people call me naive. Like Sean Callaghan and I have had this conversation kind of offline of how many times we've been hurt and disappointed by people because our default mode is to show people love and opportunity. And we actually don't therefore hold people as accountable as we otherwise could be. And both of us have said we're not as successful as we otherwise would be. And both of us have said we don't care that we're not that successful because we will continue to look at the intent behind somebody's actions as the number one factor. Like I ask people, I challenge people this all the time. If you tell me, oh, that person screwed me, right? You hear that all the time. It's like, did they really? Did they really? I mean, how many times in your life can you truly say that somebody stood up and put the effort and energy into trying to hurt you? respectfully to everybody that hears this, you're not important enough. We love our ego. We love pretending that we're the most important thing in the world. Jess, you're irrelevant. Me, I'm irrelevant. We are all irrelevant. And it's that irrelevancy that makes us so amazing and so relevant. It's a total flip. But when you say, oh, that person screwed me over, no, they didn't. The result of it might have impacted your life. 100%, absolutely, I'm not denying it. But the intent of that person when they woke up that morning, I almost guarantee was not, how do I screw you over? Like maybe 1 in 100, maybe 1 in 1,000. And if you get that, if you truly get that, then you can actually approach it with love. You can say, okay, what is it you're trying to do here? What is it that, what in your mode, what are you serving in your life by doing this? And you'll often find the person's in an incredible amount of pain. And if somebody comes to you and they're in an incredible amount of pain, ask you how you would want your, either your, and I'm going to use, I'm sorry, because I'm a guy, I'm going to use your daughter, your sister, or your mother. Ask yourself, if that person was your daughter, sister, or mother, how would you want a stranger to handle that situation? And it may be, Jess, it might work for you as a son, a brother, or a father. It may be a different thing. But for me, I try and look at people and go, how would I want my daughter to be handled in this situation? Right? I'm not excusing the behavior. I'm not saying, you know, we went to the supermarket the other day and someone literally screamed at me for taking too long in front of the butter. Like screamed at me. And I looked at the person and honestly, I am who I am. I looked at them and went, I weigh double what you weigh. This is like really dumb behavior. If I decided to answer your aggression with aggression, this is going to end very badly for you. It's not going to end very badly for me, it's going to end very badly for you. Although I'll probably end up in jail for GBH as a result of that. I'm like, okay, so that doesn't seem like the right response. Well, what have I got left? I can shout back. Well, that doesn't get either of us anywhere. And the topic of his point was that I'd spent too long, because in the UK we've got this, you can't enter the 2-meter box. So literally, by me taking too long in front of the butter, the next person can't come into that box and get on with their day. So he's actually right. Why do I need to spend more than like 6 seconds in front of butter? I know what butter we buy. I'm like, I still get confused if it's salted or unsalted because I'm slightly on the spectrum. Right. So instead of going at him, I just turned around and said, hey, I'm really sorry about that. And his reaction, and this will surprise people, he didn't drop it. Right? People don't. He went, ah, and he went again. I'm like, hey, I don't know what else I can say. I'm really sorry. Do you need to talk? Is everything okay? Of course everything's okay. All right, cool. Well, listen, I just want you to know I'm really sorry about that. I hope you have a great day. Oh, there's no need to be sarcastic. I'm like, there's no sarcasm. I truly hope you have a great day. I wish you no animosity at all. Right? Now, what was the better way to handle that situation? Now, if you assume that this guy actually wanted to cause me pain and suffering and want to get me angry, then the right reaction for me would just be go, sod this. Like, where does that get us to as a world? If the people with power, either physical power or mental power or emotional power, exert that power for their own good without any consequence of the human condition and emotion. Someone asked me the other day, they said, Pete, what is your definition of evil? I went, sorry? I said, what? They said, what's your definition of evil? And I went, that's a really good question. I said, my definition of evil is pursuing your own agenda without any thought as to the human cost of pursuing that agenda. That's my definition of evil. People that literally pursue everything they want without any thought as to the impact on other people. I'm willing to just go as far and say that's evil. Because I don't believe that Facebook are trying to manipulate people to increase X, Y, Z, and ABC, but I do believe that they're willing to do things to pursue their own goals and own aims, and that the human cost isn't a factor in their decision. And I shouldn't say this on a Facebook Live, but you know, hey, I believe that a lot of the world's capitalist structures are baked into their modus operandi is to pursue their goals at all costs. Because a CEO has to exist next to certain KPIs and indicators and performance structures or they get fired. Now, none of those KPIs normally involve how happy are your staff? Have you decreased your environmental impact? Those things aren't in their list of KPIs. Their KPIs are profit, loss, revenue, customer retention, customer acquisition. So they don't ever bother thinking about what they can do for people. And I think this is so relevant to the subject of relationships. Because right now, I guarantee that if you're in a lockdown situation, that you're seeing behavior from your partner that you have not seen before. I guarantee it. It's not possible, unless you've lived in this environment, it's not possible for there not to be new stimulus that results in new behaviors. But look at their intent, not their actions. What are they trying to do? Most of us are trying to stay sane. Right? It literally is that simple. Most of us are trying to stay sane. Most of us are trying to not think about the fact that in 3 months' time, a third of the country might not have a job. That's a pretty big deal. And I would say that you should answer those actions, not the intent. Answer the intent. Don't answer the actions. And answering the intent, 9 times out of 10 involves a hug. Right? That's my relationship advice. And Jess, you have so many or more years experience than I do, but here's my relationship advice. If you don't know what to do, give your partner a hug. The end. Start there. Everything is going to get better. Jess.
You touched on so many good points, Peter, and thank you for that. And so I took a bunch of notes because it triggered, not triggered, but it definitely was stimulus to some topics. So to the hug, most of the times, yes, especially as a woman, I know that if I'm like feeling whatever I'm feeling, a hug always helps. However, let them empty their bucket first. So we have, as the feminine energy, and we may go into, if we have time, into the stages of development. I did promise that last week.
Yes.
So we do have this need to, we accumulate. So energetically, and in society, even if you think of us, sexually, men give out, women receive, right? And so during all the time, we are constantly getting all this information, all this stimulus, and we're accumulating. We keep accumulating. That's what we are. We are gatherers. We gather the good stuff and sometimes not such a great stuff. And it gets to a point where we're full and we need to it literally is emotional vomit. It's not a very beautiful perspective, but that's what it is. And so sometimes when that happens, and you may have noticed in your partners and your feminine energies that's happening a lot more than they used to. And before, they used to be able to go to their girlfriends or their parents or whoever they had as a support system, and now you're stuck at home, and that's who the only person is, the partners and the family and the people that you're at home with, and they're like, so you're understanding that is a normal process, and all you need to do is just hold the bucket. Just imagine you're holding space, you're holding a bucket, you're like, okay, and you can even ask, like, honey, do you need me to solve this problem, or you just need to vent? And if she just gets angry with that, it means that she needs to vent. And so you let the vent. And then the key element is there something else? Or it's like, tell me more. It's like, oh my goodness, how did that feel? Like really, like go into it. And as a masculine energy, I know this could be painful. And for us, you ladies listening in on this, try not to do that too much. Maybe phone a girlfriend or somebody, another support system, because for a masculine energy to be feeling this and feeling your pain, it hurts, because what they are hunters. They solve problems. So we don't want the problems to be solved. We just need to vent and empty that bucket. And they're trying to solve the problem, which then creates more problems. and so for that, you hold the bucket until there's nothing left to vomit, and you hold, and then the hug. A hug is always welcome.
I've got a piece of advice on the question you just said, Jess, which is make that space solving a problem. So one of the things that Liz does with me is she'll say to me, I need this from you today. All right. So she'll say, I need to sit down and vent with you later on today. And I go, okay. All right. And then I'm walking into it ready with the mindset of this is what I need to do right now. Where I think, and I'm just kind of offering a different perspective from what you just said. Whereas the problem is when it's brought on, I'm like, whoa, what is this? I don't know what to do with this. Hey, crap. Whereas if Liz says, can we talk after the kids go to the bed? And I go, sure, what about? And she goes, nothing specific. I go, okay, I know what that means. That means that I need to sit down, try to stop talking, because that's my default, and try to do more listening than talking. And try not to even when I go, yeah, I know what you mean, I felt the same way. Even that, Liz will go, what are you doing? We're not here to talk. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I was just trying to empathize, but no, okay, fair, shut up, Pete, just listen. Someone just asked a really good question about what about narcissists?
Yes, I looked at that, and I will. That's on one of the new behaviors in the divorce I also want to talk about. So I looked at that. And just to add to what you mentioned, Peter, and that's so beautiful that you both are on the same page. And that's what we all strive for. A lot of times what I found, like with clients and coaching clients and even people who take my courses, is I would say majority of time it's one person in the couple that is taking the time to listen to these calls, and the other one takes a little longer to get on board. And so if you're male, that's why I'm saying, like, if you're male and you see that happen, just notice that behavior. Of course, it's much better and it's more ideal that you're both understanding that. And as a woman, you say, this is what I need right now. 100% agree with what you mentioned, Peter. And so we were talking about before about, understanding that there's new behaviors, and I'll touch on the narcissist part. And even the unhealthy manipulation and things, certain things can appear or be enhanced. There's a reality check that you said, Peter. This is not just the next couple months. Divorce rates have already gone up over 25% in China. The US right now, courts are closed, but divorce rates are going to go up. And it's your choice. Do you want to be part of that statistic, or do you want to do something about it? Because at the end of the day, I would say a majority of couples, I'm not saying all, a majority of couples can stay together and can stay together happily and turn things around in a way and have an incredible relationship by just applying these hacks. And we have a program coming up that will help you and support you in doing that in more depth, and we can even coach you through it. But it's up to you. Like, do you want to be in those statistics or not? And it's a wake-up call. Like, this is not just a week, 2 weeks, 2 months. This will change. It is a new normal. And it's up to you to define whether you want to be a great husband, a great wife, a great parent, or not. It kind of is harsh, but it's up to you now. It's up to you to make the decision to whether you're on board, and if you are, you're in the right place. So that's good news. That's why we're here. And that reality check, it really hit me when we talked about it inside. And it's not just business. It's not just financial. It's in our relationships. And the best example we can be to our loved ones is to first live it within ourselves. And if we can have good relationships with our partners, with our friends, with people we love, it impacts all the areas of our life. That's why I started focusing on relationships personally. I was doing business development. I was doing coaching, not specific on relationships. And for 2.5 years or 3 years now, it's all I focused on, because I realized how impactful it has on my life. Like you were like, Peter, if your relationship's not going well, wouldn't you say like it's a huge impact on the rest of your life?
100%. It's, to me, I always need one safe place to go back to. Right. And sometimes it's been the business, but it's very rarely that. Normally it's the partnership and the relationship. And I am as flawed, if not more flawed, than most human beings. And I am obtuse and arrogant and all sorts of wonderful screwed upness. And it makes it quite ridiculous for me to sit here and tell people what to do. But a lot of the people that have listened to this will be aware of the work of Tony Robbins, and his seminal thing is the Date with Destiny one. And the one day I walked out of and went, there's no value to me here. And I challenged my coach and various other people. The one thing I walked out of was relationship day. And went, there is no value to me here. Because this bit I get. I understand the basics of, and I'm still not a perfect husband. Don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here going, I am the avatar that people should aim for. But what I understand is that, one, my wife is different from me. She is different. She has amazing skills that are vastly different to mine. She is suboptimal in areas that I play in, and I am suboptimal in areas that she plays in. But every time we nail our communication, we get to shed away the areas we're not optimal, and we get to strive on each other's strengths, and we get to build something amazing. I could not be here right now talking to you and however many people are on Facebook and however many people in our back office, on our back areas. I could not be here if she wasn't looking after my children. I couldn't be here. And she's now looked after them for 6 weeks in a row, almost 24/7. I have no idea how she does it. It's like literally woodpeckers. They are literally woodpeckers on your head, right? And you love them and you want to kill them. It's like, how am I in a place where I want to kill you? I love you, but I want to kill you. I couldn't do that. But on the flip side, she couldn't do what I'm doing. Right? I'm juggling. How do we pay a mortgage? How do we keep the clients, the work that we did have? How do we put our energy into Hack Mankind? How do I support everybody that's in the world of Hack Mankind? How do I support everybody that's watching these things? The emotional and mental pressure that sits on my shoulders, and I do it to myself. Right? This is not me saying anything other. Is huge. It's literally an oppressive weight. And every morning I wake up and go, it's game time. Let's do it again. Let's go at it, because there are people that need to listen and they need to understand. I don't want people to be pessimistic, and I do not want them to be optimistic. But if you look at the intent of your partner and their intent was to hurt you, by all means, go down the divorce route. Like, literally, I'm sorry, Jess, and I know you probably don't agree, but if they're literally, you say that person actually wanted to hurt me, that was their primary goal, then I would say I want you to think about your relationship. But I'm willing to bet that wasn't their primary goal.
Yeah,
their
sometimes it may seem like that. And the way, yeah, when you're talking about your children, a lot of people may relate to that even with their spouses, right? I love you so much and I want to kill you. No. Right now, this energy. And so one of the things is sometimes it may seem as though you're doing something to hurt, because, and I love what you mentioned, because behind it they're hurt and it's a cry for help. And there's actually, I wanted to show this, and then and so I'll answer quickly for the narcissist idea. And narcissist, is narcissist like the self-centered one? I'm trying to like.
Yeah. So I've lived with a narcissist. I've lived with a consummate narcissist, and I can tell you my actions versus intent. This is the purest version of it. It's actually, the question was asked is actually the perfect way to answer what we're saying. Narcissists don't even recognize you exist, right? They literally, when they're in pain, they don't even know you're in the room. I had someone call me, Jess, and say, I know the whole world is burning, but all I care about is what's happening to me. To which my reaction was, by the way, my kids are fine. And they're like, sorry? Yeah, of course. I'm like, no, we've been on a call for 30 minutes. You haven't even asked how my family is. All you've done is brought this, and I love this person, so I choose to hold that space for them to allow them to do it. But that's my answer, and it's not the perfect answer, but my answer is allow them to hold that space. Hold that space for them if you love them, and allow them to be in that area. But also every so often jab at them and remind them that you're in the room. Right? I'm sure there's much better advice, but yeah, narcissists are a special breed, and it's one of those words that are thrown around at the moment. I think it's a very en vogue word of the last 5 years.
Yes. And narcissism, I feel like it's like more self-centeredness and And I think it kind of, then you go into psychology, which I'm not major in at all. You look at it, you know, what comes out of there, because, you know, there's some people that may seem narcissist, and ultimately they just have so much pain that they don't know how to go there. They don't know, they do care, but they don't know. But one of the things, if you're in a relationship with somebody that seems to be like that, yes, for you, it's like you nudge back, and it's understanding, like what I say, it's like not making the other person wrong. We are who we are, and we don't know what we don't know. Like, we don't know really. Like, there's labels that we judge people, and we put labels onto things, but we're not trained psychologists. We're not, like, we don't know what we don't know, and even then we don't know really. So one of the things that one of my great friends has taught me, and has stuck with me so well, and has helped so many people that I work with, is the the fact that no one is wrong. However, it may not be aligned with what you want in your life. So that's where healthy boundaries can come in. And I like to say healthy boundaries, because I don't want to sound like a wall, and it's like, this is my boundary, these are my rules. If there's too many rules, it's also not healthy. But it's understanding that, you know, there are certain behaviors that are not okay. If you call me, or if you come into the room and you like constantly not care about how I'm doing, or show interest, not say not care, because then you're accusing, but saying, I don't feel that you've asked any questions about how I'm doing, and it makes me feel unseen, right? You're not accusing them of anything, but this is what you've seen. You have not asked one question about how I'm doing, right? So it's understanding what it is, the behavior that is not okay for you. It is not okay for you. Doesn't mean that it's a wrong behavior. It's a behavior that's not okay for you, and you communicate it that way. And then, yes, there are certain behaviors that are not okay for you, and you do not want that in your life. Therefore, yes, you go down the divorce route. I am not the type of person that will always say, don't get divorced, don't get divorced. I am still, I would say, an endless romantic, and I believe in magic, and I've seen magic happen. But, you know, I've myself lived through separation, and understand that you have to sometimes make the hard choice that is right for you. And you know deep down in your heart what is right for you. So I hope that answers the question about narcissism. I wanted to, one of the things that's super powerful, I wanted to share, and I want to try something real quick, see if this works. So I'm going to do whiteboard. Did that work? I think it's working.
It is.
All right. So there's, so for those who know Tony Robbins, and I'm sure this comes, we have 6 human needs. Is this working? Oh my goodness, it's working. I love it. And so there's 4. So you have the need for uncertainty. And forgive my misspelling. I speak 4 languages, and none of them properly. Uncertainty and variety. Variety. I don't know. Anyways, we understand each other. Variety. So uncertainty and then we also want certainty, which is pretty interesting, right? It's kind of the opposite. Is it going a little off screen, or is it okay?
You're good.
And then we also want love and connection, right? We also want to feel significant, where it comes, that's the thought of the whole narcissist. We all have a side of us that's narcissist, all of us, significant, right? So we all have, oh, what just happened? I don't know what just happened. Anyways, variety, oh, there it is. Sorry, it had disappeared on my screen real quick. And then we also have the need for contribution and growth. All right, you're like, okay, why is Jessica telling me about this? One of the exercises I've done, I did with Chloe Madonis. I spent 4 days with Chloe Madonis, and for those who don't know Chloe Madonis is, she analyzes and she does all the psychology behind Tony Robbins' work. So she trains, and I'm doing the certification program. She's on the back end, and I did some private coaching with her on relationships for 4 days in person, which is incredible, just one-on-one. And one of the exercises that she gave me is understanding in your partner. Like Tony Robbins even says this. He says, no way have I ever met somebody that said, oh my goodness, my partner has given me so much variety. We have so much variety. We do so many different things. And I feel so certain that she loves me. She totally adores me. I'm certain of our relationship is amazing. We have incredible love and connection. I feel so significant in this relationship. And I feel like I can contribute and she contributes. And I feel like we're growing. We're constantly growing and expanding the better versions of ourselves. And I'm going to go cheat on her. That doesn't happen, right? And they or I'm going to leave. That does not happen. So this is a really cool exercise for yourself, even if you're single, to understand what are your needs in the relationship. And you can have like 3 things, right? And that's like my homework for you today. It's like, what makes you feel variety in your relationship? What gives you variety, right? That it's not always the same thing, always the same thing. And we could do this with you, Peter. I don't know if you want to go in that depth.
Sure, I'll do it, but I want to just add something else to it.
One thing, like, what gives you variety?
What gives me variety?
Yeah, what makes you feel like you have variety in your relationship?
I have 2 kids. Every hour of my day is different.
So there you go.
My daughter spent 10 minutes this morning, Jess, explaining to me how she bumped her little toe, and that meant that she could no longer help mummy work out what vegetables to put in salad, because that little toe was responsible for salad making decisions. Right? Literally 10 minutes of my day, I'm sitting trying to map out approaches to online marketing and squeeze pages and all this kind of stuff for a client. And literally my daughter came in and went, Daddy, I need to talk to you. I'm like, sure, what's wrong, Olivia? This must be serious. Olivia, what's wrong? Daddy, I bumped my toe. Oh, okay, you okay? Yeah, but I'm worried. Why are you worried, Olivia? Well, because that's my little pinky. It's my favorite little pinky. I'm like, okay, okay. All right, I'm trying not to laugh because this is serious to her. I'm like, okay. I'm like, well, why that one? She said, well, that's the one that I used to help mummy decide what vegetables to put in salad. I'm like, okay. Maybe you could use your brain for that. No, it's my little pinky toe that does that. I'm like, okay. So you want that? My variety, literally, my variety is full.
So if you didn't have kids, what would you say is a different one that gives you variety?
And I think that's a really tough question, because I think a lot of partners that have children, especially young children, fall into this, because our ability to explore our relationship physically, our ability to explore, emotionally, mentally, is linked to the fact that we have 2 children.
Yeah.
We can't go out and when we get a date night, when someone gets to look after the kids for one, we used to do that like once a month minimum, and it's not enough, but once a month. My mum or Liz's mum would come and look after the kids for us, and we'd go and do one of those locked room games, or we'd go to the cinema, or and all that's gone.
So this is an invitation. It's a great invitation for people, because you're totally right. When you have kids, a lot of things kind of become secondary. And one of the things I always say, and it's easy to say, harder to do, but is prioritizing your relationship. And I know that you do that, Peter. I know that you guys do that. And doing it consciously, looking at like variety, it could simply be something, the fact that, we don't eat the same thing every single day. It really depends on the person. For me, variety meant that I could have I didn't know not every single weekend would be planned, and we could just pick up and go somewhere. Or it could be that I have variety in the sense that, our schedules aren't fixed all the time. Like we have flexible schedules. So doing things like that, or variety, yes, more in the bedroom. If you look at what matters to you. So this is a good exercise in couples, I think, to look at like, what gives me variety that I would really love, and then you can grade yourselves, right? So if it's schedule, if it's variety in trying new activities, things like that. So like I'd love to go try what was it, a locked room. I don't think that's the right word, but the room.
I love those things, man. I honestly, arrogantly, I thought my wife would be terrible at them. I think she's better than I am. but I would say, Liz,
and then you look at certain.
Oh, Certainty, yeah, nailed.
Right. So what makes you feel certainty in your relationship?
I know that I can always go in and ask if she, literally, I can go in and say, I'm feeling down. Tell me what I need to hear. Like, I can literally at any time go into Liz and say, tell me what I need to hear. And she will either default to stop whining, go and get it done, which is quite often, which is like, sorry, it's like, you told me to tell you what you needed, and what you need to hear right now is to get a pair and go and do what you need to do. That happens quite regularly. I would say that I offer her certainty in so far as she knows that when she needs to tap out, she can. I wouldn't say she takes it as often as she should, but if she says, I need you to do X, Y, Z, there hasn't been an occasion when I haven't done the thing I'm asked to do. So I'm always there. We always know that we have each other's back. And we always know that we often agree that a decision will be a lowest common denominator or a highest common denominator decision. So literally by that, we mean that both of us have a veto. So it's like one of us says, shall we do X, Y, Z? And we know that the other person can go, not doing it. And at that point, it doesn't need to be explained. It's okay, can you help me understand? Cool, we're not doing it, but can you help me understand? And the only time we vetoed the veto was around the schooling, right? That was literally the only time where both of us have gone, no, we're talking this through, but everything else. But I want to just go back to something you said. Right? I would say right now that we are, certainly for Liz and I, that we are failing, and probably me more than her, no, definitely me more than her, to prioritize our relationship. And I hope that she feels the same about this, but to me, this goes back to that action and intent decision. Right? She knows, and I believe this to be true, she knows 100% that the things that I'm not doing right now is from a place of love. It might come across that she doesn't have the support with the kids. Like she said to me this morning, she said, you told me you'd give me 3 hours a day, not with the kids. And yet every day that seems to get eaten into a bit because this is happening or that's happening or this is happening. I'm like, yeah, that's true. And she's like, okay, can you just stop making the promise of the 3 hours then? Right. So that wasn't, her feedback wasn't, you're failing, you need to do that 3 hours. She's like, I know everything you're doing is important to us. I know that we need to do this. I know you need to do that. I know you need to do that. So this goes back to my action versus intent judgment of when you look at somebody, if you judge their intent, you get an entirely different perspective than if you judge their actions.
And what's beautiful from there is that she's conscious of her needs and you're conscious of yours. And a lot of times, like even personally, like when I did this exercise, I was not conscious of mine. I was really not conscious. And so doing this and understanding myself, saying like, okay, what do I need for variety? What do I need for certainty? What do I need for love and connection? I need to hear, I love you daily, right? And it could be a note, it could be a text, it could be a hug, it could be a flower, it could be just the words I love you, it could be just sitting there next to me for a little while, like looking and understanding what it is, what makes me feel significant when he talks to me, it talks
a cup
about
of tea.
Friends. When he talks about to his friends saying I'm the most important things in his life, oh my God, I feel so significant. When he says the most important thing in my life is my family, right? I don't have a family yet, so this is like I'm imagining this is what I need to fulfill those needs, right? This is what makes me feel significant, and being conscious that this is what makes me feel significant will make it so much easier. For example, when I did this at the time, I was with somebody and one of his needs is he wanted more variety, and I think it was variety. And one of the things we decided was to see more people, to have more friends over, to like have more social life. And so, okay, so what does that mean? And it decided like it was a birthday party, right? It was having friends over that are couples, not single people, because we were surrounded by single people and the energy there just wasn't working. Couples over, so like date nights. It's simple. It makes it easy to then say, it's like, oh yeah, for me, I was just like, I can do a birthday party. I used to be in hospitality management. Are you kidding? I know how to plan events. I majored in event planning. I threw a killer birthday party, and it was awesome. It brought me pleasure. It brought me excitement. And so we worked together in finding things that work with our schedule, that work with our time, and that work for both of us. I got excited to provide that need. I got excited to do the birthday party, and he loved it because that was how to fill his need. But if I hadn't gotten the hint, if I hadn't gotten the communication, how would I known? I had no idea. And he didn't even have an idea either, because he didn't do this exercise. So one of the things that helps couples, or even if you're single, this is so important for you to be doing, because when you're then communicating your needs, or you're trying to find a partner, you know exactly what you're looking for. It makes it's so much easier to then go and be there for each other. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I know we
Jess, I want to deliver the mic drop moment on this, though.
Okay.
The mic drop moment on this, for everybody that's listening to this, is your partner is going to go and find those needs satisfied somewhere if you don't do it with them.
Yeah.
Right? There's no, if somebody needs variety, they will find variety. And if your partner has cheated on you, and I truly hope that doesn't happen to anybody listening to this, but it probably has or will or is, it is not just on them that is happening. It's on you as well, right? So if your partner, like my mother and father didn't survive. My father was traveling across the world trying to provide for his family. It was from pure good intent. And my mother ended up with somebody else because she needed certainty. And the money, the career, the income, that was not what she needed. And it shifts all the time, which is why this communication is so important. But your partner and you will find those needs met somehow.
Yes, and that's why I love this exercise. I feel like we have all this, oh my goodness, the rate of divorce, and this is not going to happen. We're not going to work. We're like arguing and we're fighting and we're yelling, and I just want to kill him, or I just want to kill her. You know, that energy comes up. I've had that energy. I'm a Portuguese woman. I am a pitta. For those in Ayurveda, I am fire. So I can get like that. I totally get it. And I'm such a proponent for simple exercises. A simple exercise like this one can save your marriage, literally, where you just sit down, get clear on what your needs are, how to satisfy them, and make it a game, if you can do it together or not, or ask them, like, what do you need for variety? And then grade yourself. Like, if we would grade each other, right? You say, like, how much from 0 to 10, how much variety do you feel in our relationship that I'm giving you? And then you may not need to get it from that relationship, right? You may want to like start painting, and the fact that you're painting will then make you feel better, more creative, and then come back into the relationship. So just taking that framework can really make a difference. So I'm inviting you. I'm so conscious of the time. I can't believe it's gone by so fast. I'll have to do stages development of women next time. I'm sorry, guys. Because
we have 5 minutes until we have to be on the angel call.
And then there's one thing that I can say quickly that you mentioned, veto rights. So for you, it really works that you have veto rights for everything. One of the things that I found that works for couples as well, and I've been trained on, is understanding roles and responsibilities, right? So having like areas of life where you can say, okay, we're 60-40, and 60-40, where, for example, the meals, like the nutrition side, or the meals that we give to the family, one person has 60-40. So at the end of the day, yes, you can discuss, but one person has a veto right in that area of life, and you predetermine what that is, and you understand that that person, like you were saying, Peter, you know, your wife has areas in life that she's better at, and there's areas where you're better at. And so you can predetermine that without any decision to have been made right now. So in a neutral ground to say, you know what, we're neutral right now. This is what we decide. We have all these areas of life, and I actually have a whole like sheet thing that we can share next week for those who want to make sure, sign up www.hackmankind.com and you can have access to that. And I can give the sheet for next week where you can look at it, like, all right, honey, well, these are the areas, and it'll make it so much easier, because when come decision time and when it's really stressful, you know who will decide. And you've predetermined that. It's something that you've already agreed on. And for some people, it may not work. Peter, you guys are really good at having this veto, and it works for having 50-50 or whatever it is, that everybody has a veto. But for some couples, a little more framework works.
I agree with that. So let's try and do 1 word to 1 sentence answers each for the 3 questions that have been asked, Jess, because otherwise we're not.
Yes.
So you first. What should couples add and or eliminate in their communication?
Add, it's not making the other person wrong. So communicating about myself, like, this is what I've seen. So fact, right? You said we were going to do 3 hours. There has not been 3 hours. Or I have not heard you say, ask me how I'm doing in this conversation. And this is how it makes me feel. And this is what I need. So I'm not making the other person wrong. I'm just saying what I feel and what the facts are. Eliminate is when you feel like you're boiling up and you could just have a break, right? A timeout. That would be a good thing to eliminate communication when you're in fire. So that's my answer to that one.
I'm not even going to try and answer it better, because you're exactly right. Because when Liz said to me this morning, you're not giving me the 3 hours you said, right? I am now trying to work out how I fix that. Right. And it wasn't accusatory, it wasn't emotional. She stated a fact. You said that you give us 3 hours when I'm not with the kids, and you haven't managed to do that. But she didn't say it with anger, with hatred. There was an understanding of all the reasons why, but none of that was even discussed. She just said, I want to leave that with you. I'm like, that's fair enough. It's fair enough. I can't argue. It's true. So now I'm looking at my schedule and looking at how I approach my days and looking at how I can change them. You don't need to resolve a debate or a conflict at the source of the conflict. If you are working from a place of intent, you can raise the problem and allow the other person the trust that they're going to find solutions to that problem for you.
And what's so beautiful about that is that she actually said the problem wasn't that you weren't giving the 3 hours, is that you had promised. So just don't promise the 3 hours and I won't expect it. And what's most beautiful about that, if you're listening, ladies, is that you're saying, you know, and it's communicating, my need is that what was promised wasn't provided. So just don't promise it and then I won't feel shitty. Excuse my French. But I totally resonate with that. It's like, I'm expecting something and I'm disappointed. If I'm only expecting 1 and you give me 2, I'll be super happy, even though you had originally promised 3. But now I'm expecting 1. So then it's super. So it's under-deliver all the time, and that's
now
communicating.
Find a way to over-deliver.
Yeah, because it's communicated so beautifully. All right. So really quick, next question.
Oh, this is more for me than you. Women at times are very complicated. I do not understand what they mean.
Oh, well, that's the stages of development. So I'll say tune in next week, because I've got really good stuff. So we'll start that first thing next week. I promise, next week, Sunday, we'll start that, and we'll go more in depth during the training program, 100%.
I'm going to say something, Jess, that you can flay me for afterwards. My answer is you don't need to understand them. They just need to think that you did. Guys, literally, kind of.
Wait, let me reframe that, because let me just reframe. It's not because that's not what you meant. I know that's not what you meant. What you meant is you don't need to understand 100%. They just need to think that you do 100%. The important is the intent. All you need to do is love them, appreciate them, and cherish them. And that's what you're doing. So you're cherishing, because like I'm telling you guys, I don't understand myself. We don't even understand ourselves. You guys understand us better than we do. So don't worry about not understanding absolutely everything. So that, yes, I agree with you, Peter, but I wanted to add the cherishing and the loving.
I want to give my example, right? It's like sitting in a math lesson with somebody that has had 40 years studying abstract math and quantum physics when you're new to the subject. That person that's teaching you that doesn't have an expectation that you understand them. They have an expectation that you sit and listen intently and you ask questions and you get involved in the process, but they have no expectation that you're going to understand them, right? The depth of feeling that, and we use, we haven't put this caveat in, masculine, feminine versus men, women, the depth of feeling that women can get to is something that a man literally cannot even conceive, right? It's like blowing on your hand versus a hurricane.
100%.
So the effort to try and understand them, it's really, you're kind of setting yourself up to fail in advance. I never really try to understand Liz. What I try to do is make sure I listen, make sure she's heard, and make sure if there's something in it that I think is like an actual relevant thing I need to take on board, that I ask questions, right? But trying to understand a man versus, it's just, I think it's a flawed premise to begin with. Don't try and understand them, just try and love them, and just try and listen, and just try and be there, and you'll get much further. Yeah, and the next one then, I've tried to talk to my significant other so many times, it seems he's just stubborn, does not want to take my advice into consideration. It's an interesting one because you said you've tried to talk to them, and then you said they didn't take your advice into consideration. The first thing I would tell you is if he didn't ask for your advice, it won't be taken into consideration.
Yeah, so but sometimes it's like when you're not happy and you want to communicate that, that's I think I would ask more questions, and we can definitely go more in depth during the course and on our next call if you want to be more specific. But one of the things I would leave you with is, because I totally get that. I totally understand that. It's like talking to a brick wall, and it just hurts so much because you want it to work. You want it to, I mean, I'm projecting 100%, but you want things to be good, and you love them, and you love most of the relationship. There are moments, there are things that are just so painful and so hard, and you try to communicate and you try to talk and you try to influence, and it just not getting through. My advice is seeing, how are you talking? Are you doing the communication that we talked about? I think it was last week or the week before. And, is it, are you blaming, shaming, or are you coaching? Because those three will never work. And ask questions, be curious of what the behavior. So I would ask questions like, okay, so I see that you've done this, why, or, where are you coming from? Or I'd love to understand, or just very high level, and just get them talking. And it can trigger certain things in you, and just write them down, right? I usually have like a little notebook and just like write those things down. And just, so yeah, I would want to go in more depth, because I feel that there could be quite a lot of pain in there, or I'm just projecting, but for some of us, it really is hard. And there are ways to communicate. So depending on, it's the approach, it's the communication style, it's asking questions. There are different ways that you can approach this. So if it was a more specific situation, I'd be happy to dive deeper into it on our next call.
Oh, amazing. Jess, I need to go onto my other call, I'm afraid.
Yes, we have the angel support call right now. I'm so excited. I love these calls. And you can dive deeper into your questions on today's theme of the day. Yeah. So is that with you, Peter?
It is indeed.
Awesome.
Now, 1 minute ago.
Oops. All right. Love you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye.